Good morning, guys. This is Miss Fullington. So today is Tuesday, September 22nd. It's the first day of fall. Woohoo! So today in social studies, we are still continuing to learn about WASP, or it's Women's Air Force Service Pilot. So we're going to read 7 slides, and then you are going to take a quiz on it. It's just a few questions. It's not hard. So let's take a look. So this is WASP, Women's Air Force Service Pilots. It says, why WASPs? In the early 1940s, the United States was involved in World War II. During this war, most men volunteered to fight. With all of the male pilots gone to war, there was a shortage of pilots. So there was not enough pilots. That's what it means. And the military needed help ferrying planes. Women were the only ones who were available for this job. Many people, especially men, did not think that women were able to handle this job. The military decided to take a chance on the women and allowed them to become pilots. Before this time, women were not allowed to do many of the same things as men. So it says here, this icon is very famous. It says Rosie the Riveter was an icon during World War II, and she has represented all of women who worked in factories and shipyards, taking the men's place while they were at war. So this was very, and it's still popular today. It's considered vintage, which means it's very old and special.
It's on TV.
It's on TV a lot. The founding WASPs. Jacqueline Cochran noticed the lack of pilots, and she noticed that there was not enough pilots, and she wrote a letter to the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt. So the First Lady is always the president's wife. So the president was President Roosevelt, and his wife's name is Eleanor Roosevelt, encouraging the use of female pilots. This was such a great idea that Jacqueline Cochran was placed in charge of the WASP. She named her group the Women Air Force Service Pilots. In this job, she had to recruit 25 of the most qualified female pilots. That means that she's in charge of hiring 25 women who are capable or who are able to do the job right. It says here, and was in charge of training school. So that she also had to be like the principal of the training school. Later, she became the first woman to break the sound barrier. Nancy Love was also, so this is Jacqueline Cochran, and this is Nancy Love. Nancy Love was also one of the founders of WASP. She was the first person to write to the Ferry Division of the Army Air Forces to utilize the WASP in transporting planes. So she was in charge, Nancy Love was in charge of contacting the Air Force who transports planes by water sometimes because they're so heavy. Remember, the naval bases are on ships, so they have to transport planes. And so she was in charge of asking them, can we use the ladies that we hired to help fix those planes and kind of navigate the ship so that we can deliver planes to you when you need them? So that's what she was in charge of. Training. So this is where they go to school. Just because the WASPs were women does not mean that they were treated any differently. The women were required to complete the same basic training as any male pilot. They did not get any special treatment. The training taught the women how to handle any of the planes that they would be flying. The women had to have over 1,000 hours of flying time and completed most of their training in Sweetwater, Texas at Avenger Field. So they learned how to fly these planes, but they had to have 1,000 hours. Do you know how many hours we go to school?
4.
No.
3. 5.
It's almost like 6 to 8 hours of school. So to take that and how many hours you go in one day. So they have to do 1,000 hours. That's a lot of years of training. Yeah, that's a lot of days, isn't it? So it says here over 25,000 women applied to be in the WASP. But in the end, only 1,074 earned to become the first women to fly the American military aircraft. That was a lot of people that applied for that. 25,000, can you imagine? And only 1,000 of those getting picked. So 24,000 women just went home. So only 1,000 just stayed behind to get the job. That's kind of hard, isn't it? Working girls. The WASPs were very talented pilots. They had to be able to fly every type of plane that the military had. At the time, women were not allowed to fly in combat missions, which means women were not allowed to go to war, but they were able to fly the planes and know how they work. The main job of WASP was to deliver cargo, which means to deliver supplies like ammo, food, clothes, anything that will help the men that are at war, that to help them live properly while they are away from home. Yes.
Why do they need ammo if they have a lot of ammo?
Well, ammo's like military stuff.
Yeah.
So supplies like ropes, maybe, or boots or uniforms or bullets, something like that. They had to deliver that to them because if they run out, they don't have any way to protect themselves, and they needed that.
Why didn't they have? Why did they need gear?
They need gear to protect themselves because they're in a different country. They're away from home. They don't have the proper stuff. That's a good question.
I have a stuff like they actually need something. It's like for a shield on their horse.
Yes.
And all their stuff.
Awesome. All right, let's get back to this. So it says here, test. So they had to deliver cargo, test fly new planes, and even towed targets for men to practice their target shooting. They also ferried planes back and forth to where they were needed. The WASP were called the Fly Girls because they were the only women pilots in the military. The end of WASP. At the end of World War II in 1944, the WASP were disbanded, which means they were no longer existed, so they just went home after this because the war had ended. At the end of the war, the decision was not made to make the WASPs an official part of the military, and they were deactivated, which means they were just sent away to go home. With the end of the war, the male pilots returned home, and there was no longer a need for the women. These honorable women were not considered a part of the military until 1977. So that was 30 years, almost 30 years later, they recognized them for helping in the war. So they had to wait a very long time. All right. Good citizens. These brave and honorable women showed good citizenship by risking their lives for their country, knowing that they would not receive any recognition. Even though some of these women died for their country, they continued to serve their country with honor. It's a very good thing. All right, so now we're done reading these. I'm going to show you how you're going to get onto Seesaw. So you're going to click Add a Response.
Like always.
Sample Student. Yep, like always. So there's only 4 questions. So you're going to use those slides to answer these questions. So you're going to find your answers. You're a detective, and you're going to find your answers in the story. But where's the story? I can't get to the story, so where do I need to go? View instructions. If you need the story, view instructions and click on the picture. Then you'll be able to access the story. So you can look through these to find the answers. When you're done, you can press the X and then press the T to type your answer in. So it says, why were the WASPs good citizens? Where did the WASPs train and work? How many WASPs were there? What type of uniform did the WASP wear? So you're going to use the box to answer your questions, and when you're done, you're going to press that green check mark. Okay, guys? Y'all have a good day, and I will see you for reading.